We all have our own version of how life started. But do we know how it ends? Or, for that matter, how life in the galaxy starts? All siphonophores are predators. They use their tentacles to capture their prey. One such example is a jellyfish. Siphonophores are made of smaller animals that group together to form a larger, working marine animal. They then move in unison to propel the colony through the water in search of prey. The Portuguese man-o'-war jellyfish is one such example of smaller animals cohabitating for the benefit of the colony. Genesis 1:20. And God said, "Let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the vault of the sky." Chapter 1, 14,000 BC. On the outskirts of Earth's solar system, a dark sphere of ancient alien DNA stirs and stretches, testing its hard obsidian casing. The black, smooth, shiny round ball shone for an instant, and faint double helix strands of life twitched and flickered into action. Having traveled billions of miles from the far reaches of deepest space, this sphere of potential life appeared nothing like the round spore it had started out as, when it was initially created on its original host planet. After being sent tumbling through space, its host planet violently destroyed in an interplanetary cosmic event, the spinning pod had quickly attracted dust and fragments of its recently deceased home, and now appeared to resemble a large rocky asteroid some 800 meters in diameter. Intent on finding a suitable new host planet, preferably one that could support life, or even one that already contained life, the sphere had traversed thousands of solar systems, always knowing, as if by some divine will, when to avoid crashing into a particular planet that inhabited the Goldilocks zone of that planet's sun. The spread of the DNA housed within the spherical spore's pod was the only purpose of this rotating mass of rock and ice. Nothing would stop it from this activity, not even the gravitational pull of gas giants. Nearing its target, the activity within the sphere appeared to intensify. The obsidian ball almost quivered with anticipation. Soon, the rotating, rock-covered ball sped past the asteroid belt and entered Earth's solar system. The Roman god of the underworld, Pluto, slowly came into focus. Ironically, the lord of the underworld was the first to welcome the invading intruder that was to bring so much destruction to the inhabited planet situated in this solar system's Goldilocks zone. Using the small gravitational pull of the dwarf-sized planet, it slung itself onwards and toward the pulsing blue gas giant, Neptune. The fantastical blue hue of the gigantic ball of gas owed its color largely to the capacity of the hydrogen-helium atmosphere to absorb the red light that emanated from the epicenter of this solar system's largest source of energy. Twice around the gas giant, and then the pod slung itself onwards towards its target, the third planet from the Sun. Sensing their journey was nearing an end, the occupants of the pod glowed fiercely, then started wriggling and squirming excitedly. Their movements pulsed and shook the pod as their numbers divided and subdivided, until the obsidian sphere started to stretch and distort. Encased in the hard, rock-like covering that had entombed the pod on its travels through the universe, the sphere within the asteroid realized that all organism multiplication should cease, or the internal pressure being created by the rapid expansion of DNA would burst its casing and prematurely expel the seed's contents before it had reached its intended goal. The pod's activity ceased, and soon it was a dark, black, inert obsidian sphere once more. Slowly, in terms of astronomical travel speeds, the asteroid closed in on its intended target. The blue, hospitable planet of Earth came into view and started to loom larger and larger. Entering the Earth's atmosphere, the hardened outer casing of the asteroid started to heat up, and soon had reached thousands of degrees Celsius, until the outer rock surface melted and became a molten liquid of lava shaped in the form of an outstretched parachute. The effect of the friction formed a bell-shaped section and allowed the asteroid to slow down sufficiently for the lava to turn into a solid, non-flowing state again. Still traveling 20,000 kilometers an hour, the asteroid smashed into the Northern Ocean. The resulting vacuum, created as the asteroid violently parted the liquid surface of planet Earth, sucked in fantastical amounts of air from the atmosphere closest to the impact site. This sudden change in pressure dropped the temperature so rapidly that even the resulting wave created by the impact froze in place, creating incredible ice structures where there were none just moments before. As the asteroid traveled further down towards the bottom of the ocean, its momentum slowed as it released the kinetic energy of its fall from space into the surrounding ocean. The pressure wave pulsed outward from the bell-shaped, now hardening chunk of alien rock and bounced off the seabed canal walls, creating a funnel Venturi effect. This wave, in turn, forced the existing seawater in the channel-like chasm to be rushed horizontally down its length until the compressed liquid smashed into the end wall and was forced upwards towards the ocean's surface. As the trillions of tons of seawater burst from the ocean's surface, the nearby grazing herd of mammoth were caught completely by surprise and did not even register that they were in danger. Still chewing a particularly tough, triangular-stemmed sedge branch, the hairy quadrupeds immediately froze mid-chew and keeled over. Everything in the path of the terrestrial torrent of seawater drowned or froze in its path. With the addition of trillions of tons of water spilling onto it, the Doggerland ice bridge between Britain and Europe shuddered and groaned under the additional weight and impact. Slowly, the ground warped and undulated, creating a bending, concave, then convex motion. A few moments later, the wave-like motion slowed and started to come to rest. But it was too late. Cracks started to appear along the surface of the bridge, and loud, deafening shrieks of tortured ice cracking and breaking filled the air. Then, all was silent. Just as it seemed as if the land had healed itself and all would return to normal, there was a tremor, and then the sound of ice grinding on ice could be heard as the cracks started to fill with the invading water, forcing them to part and slide. Finally, the Doggerland ice bridge broke apart, crashing down into the ocean, leaving the sea north of the now collapsed ice bridge free to rush into the Southern Ocean. The resulting wave of water rushed down towards the Mediterranean Ocean, smashing everything in its path, including the wall of ice separating the Black Sea from its larger, southern, neighboring body of water. The seas, now all combined, swelled hundreds of meters, and the resulting tsunami waves that were created flooded nearly all but the very highest sections of land surrounding the Mediterranean Ocean. And then, the rain started. Meanwhile, the pod, still encased in the hardened, rock-like asteroid shell, settled on the ocean floor. The time was right, now to escape this tomb and resume the procreation of the DNA trapped inside the obsidian-colored sphere. Deep down inside the center of the bell, the sphere glowed and shone. DNA divided and subdivided. Pressure built up with the increase in siphonophores, which were spawning at a fantastical rate. Eventually, the internal pressure increased and reached the required critical failure point. But still, the pod held, and the siphonophores remained contained. More and more organisms were added to the genetic pool brewing in the pod's belly. And then, the pod exploded. The bell-shaped asteroid ripped itself in two as the pod's casing burst outwards, expelling its contents into the freezing ocean. With the rapid change in pressure and environment, nearly all of the siphonophores were instantly destroyed. As the stream of the pod's contents into the ocean started to slow to a dribble, less and less of the organisms perished and became inactive. There was a flicker, and then a twitch of a tail, then another, and another, as the siphonophores grasped at their newly acquired life. Realizing that as individuals they were vulnerable, they purposely drifted, with the aid of their tiny tails, towards each other and interlocked their tiny, flexible proboscises together, forming a larger, more menacing organism. Slowly at first, and then with increasing confidence, the combined, newly formed organism swished its tail and swam into the abyss in search of something to assimilate. Chapter 2. Modern Day. Exiting the Jeep, April went to greet her two friends standing chatting on the grassy verge in front of Falls Church Junior High School. "Hi, Shona. Hi, Julie," said April to get their attention.
"Hi, April. We were just talking about tonight. The boys are doing their poker and cigar night again, so we were thinking, instead of a chick flick and cake, how about we start a book club? You know, some wine, a bit of Moby Dick, said Shona, a glint of mischief in her eyes. And the kids can do a slumber party? Watch Frozen or something? Added Julie, nodding her head vigorously up and down, intent on getting April to agree. Sounds like a great idea. Let me ask Andy. Don't be such a wet blanket, women's lib and all that. Come on, girl, us suffragettes unite. One for all and all for one, as the Girl Guide saying goes, said Julie enthusiastically. No, it doesn't, retorted April. But, yeah, okay, let's do it.
Just then the bell rang, and what seemed to be the entire tiny population of Falls Church burst out of the school's double doors. The mass of screaming, bustling children sprinted to their respective parents, eager to escape the confines of their imaginary dungeon. "Do not run! Walk, children!" came an almost inaudible command from somewhere inside the school's corridor.
Come here, my little hero,
called Julie to Jared, who was trying not to run in front of the two girls he was with. With a very visible swagger, Jared put up a show for the next 3 steps. Then, seeing both Millie and Caitlin break into a run, stopped his pretend swagger and broke into a sprint chasing after them. Jumping into April's outstretched arms, Millie hugged her mom as hard as her tiny arms could manage. Her little pink backpack with a snowman emblazoned on it slipped off her tiny shoulder and hung lopsidedly down her back.
So, how was school, Angel? Asked April.
Well, not so much fun, Mommy. We had to do silly addition and subtraction. I don't need it, ever.
Well, how are you ever going to balance your accounts and write out checks for all the things you buy when you get older?
Millie waited a while, stuck her finger in her mouth, and then pulled it out and raised it into the air.
I know. I will get one of those credit card thingies that you have, the gold one, and just give it to people. Then they will do what I want,
replied Millie, convinced that this is how the grown-up world worked. April looked at her determined little face and decided that this was a conversation for a much later period in her daughter's life. After whisking their miniature prodigies into their respective chariots of transport, the 3 mothers set off, homeward bound.
Jeep, conference call on. Dial Shona and Julie.
There was a pause, and then both women in the other cars accepted the call.
So, what time tonight, and where, and what eats, and what book? Said April, excitement evident in her eager blurt. Where are the boys having their poker game tonight? Asked Shona. Tonight it's our turn, so how about we meet at 7 at your spot, April? Lord knows you have enough space in that mansion of yours. Okay, my chateau it is. Don't worry about eats or drinks. It's about time we raided Andy's cellar and my pantry. Just bring the kids in their pajamas, ready for bed. They can bunk down on a few blow-up camping beds I'll get down from the attic and watch DVD. I'll throw in a few pizzas and some juices.
Right, Peter. Up to you. Put up or get out, said Andy, taking another sip of his Johnny Walker blue whiskey. Putting down his crystal tumbler, Andy drew a short but strong drag on his backwoods hand-rolled cigar, the sweet vanilla-smelling blue smoke filling the room as he exhaled. Right, mister, all high and mighty big Navy captain, you all in white angel of doom, I see your 10 pretzels and raise you a cigar, backwoods at that. Remember, losers down a shot of that 1800 tequila, gold or white, your choice. Losers, retorted Peter. Do you guys know what the girls are up to tonight? Said Trevor. My little spy told me they're having a slumber party at the mansion, and Mommy and friends are intent on raiding the cellar over a good book or two, replied Andy, pride beaming on his face. I need to have a chat with my little spy, said Peter. Okay, enough with the chit-chat. Who's in and who's out? Too rich for my blood, and besides, I am rather partial to a bit of the 19th century, said Trevor. Full house, jacks on 8s, said Peter. Read 'em and weep. So that's 2 shots of the old 1800 then, replied Andy. Reaching for the brown, fiery liquid, he steadily uncapped the square bottle and filled the 2 shot glasses to the brim. But first, let me show you my 4 of a kind. Captain Andy dramatically placed 1 9 on the table face up. Then, after taking a sip of his whiskey and a drag of his cigar, he slowly placed the second 9 face up. Taking the remaining 3 cards in his hand, he raised them to his face, and then, feigning clumsiness, dropped them to the floor.